All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're going to tackle databases and the special language called SQL. Now, I know, it sounds super technical, but stick with me. By the end of this, you'll see it's the secret engine that powers pretty much everything you do online. Let's get into it.
So I want to start with this, a little something from our source material for this explainer. What is that? Right? Well, it doesn't really make any sense, does it? It's like getting a text message in a language you've never even seen before. You can tell there's some kind of information there, but you have no clue how to get to it. And that feeling, that confusion, that's exactly where we're going to start. So let's get to it. Time to start cracking this code together. And here's the first big reveal. That garbled, confusing message from the beginning, that's a perfect metaphor for how big, technical topics like databases can feel the first time you hear about them. It's just a wall of strange, foreign-sounding words. But the good news is every single code can be broken. You just need the key. And our first key, our first clue, is to understand what a database actually is, in really, really simple terms. And here it is. At its very core, a database is just a super organized digital filing cabinet. Seriously, that's it. It's a place built specifically to hold huge amounts of information and, this is the important part, to find that information again in a snap.
Okay, so this whole ultimate filing cabinet idea, let's dig into that a little bit more.
Now, believe it or not, you've almost certainly used something that acts a bit like a database without even realizing it. A spreadsheet. I mean, you put information in rows and columns, you can sort it, you can look stuff up. It's a really good starting point.
But this is where things get really interesting, the difference in pure power and scale. A spreadsheet is awesome for your personal budget, right? But a database, that's what a company like Amazon uses to manage millions of products and customers. Spreadsheets can get super slow and clunky. Databases are built from the ground up for speed. A spreadsheet is really for one person at a time. A database, it can handle thousands of people using it all at the exact same moment. It's a whole different league.
And, this just goes to show how much we rely on them. Every single time you scroll your social media feed, yep, that's a database. When you add something to an online shopping cart, that's a database. Even just looking up a name in your phone's contact list, you're using a database. They are the invisible backbone of our entire digital world.
Okay, so we've established we have this amazing, powerful filing cabinet. But how do we actually talk to it? How do we ask it for things? Let's find out.
You can't just walk up to it and say, hey, go find that thing for me, right? You need a very specific way to ask, a formal language that the filing cabinet is absolutely guaranteed to understand every single time. And that language is called SQL. It stands for Structured Query Language. And that word, structured, is so key. It's a language designed to talk to data that's organized in neat tables, with rows and columns, just like we saw in spreadsheets. And because that structure is so simple and so reliable, SQL has become the universal standard for asking databases questions.
Now, I know what you're thinking. At first glance, this might look like that confusing gobbledygook from the beginning. A bit of code, some weird symbols, select star from users. It looks a little intimidating, doesn't it? But just like learning any new language, once you know the translation, it suddenly becomes incredibly simple. So check this out. That whole line of code is just a very formal, very specific way of saying this. Select star just means get me everything. And from users means, well, from the file called users. That's it. See? Not so scary. You're just giving the database a crystal clear, direct command.
Okay, so this brings us to our final piece of the puzzle. Now, I know a lot of you watching this have some Python skills. So let's look at how these two amazing worlds collide. I'm telling you, learning how to connect Python to a database is one of the biggest power-ups you can possibly get. Instead of just working with data that vanishes the second your program closes, you can now build things that have a permanent memory. And the whole process is actually beautiful in its simplicity. It's just 3 steps. First, your Python code opens a line of communication, a connection, to the database. Second, it sends one of those SQL commands we just talked about over to it. And third, the database does its job, grabs the information, and sends it right back to your Python program. Connect, ask, receive. That's the whole dance. And with that simple process, you unlock a whole new universe of possibilities. You can now build web apps where people can create accounts and actually log in. You can make a video game that saves a player's high score. You can build tools that comb through millions of pieces of data to find hidden patterns. Your code is no longer forgetful. It now has a perfect,
permanent memory. So I'll leave you with this one last thought. Every single digital interaction you make, every like, every post, every new follower, every purchase, it's all just a new line being added to a database somewhere. All of those little pieces of information, when you put them together, they tell a story. So the question is, now that you know the language, what story could your data tell?